Welcome to the Agent Leader Podcast. My name is Brent Kelly, your host. Thanks so much for joining me on this episode. As always, the mission, the purpose of the Agent Leader Podcast is to help you, the independent insurance agency leader, to help you gain clarity, build consistency, and to make a commitment to become your best version possible. And we have launched our best version possible experience at Sitkins Group. If you want to learn more about that and how you can partner with us, we're looking for growth-minded agencies. Go to sitkins.com/experience, sitkins.com/experience for the best version possible experience. And I'll tell you, as an agency leader, you are in for a treat. I've got a great guest on this episode of the Agent Leader Podcast. I always want to bring in people that can provide resource, different perspectives, unique perspectives, add value to you, the independent insurance agency leader. And I've got a great guest today. I've got Betancourt, who is the CEO of AEBetancourt in the great state, if I'm not make sure, of Michigan, Grand Rapids, right. Michigan, right? So I want to bring Art in, and I'll let you kind of share about your backstory a little bit, and what it is that you do specifically at AEBetancourt to help listeners of this podcast, because I got to officially meet Art we just were talking about that before we started recording, late March, early April of this year. Seems like it was 2 months ago, but it was like 6 months ago as we record this. So time flies. But welcome to the podcast, Art. Thanks for being a guest.
Oh, thanks, Brent. It's a pleasure being here. And I'm really honored. I mean, you guys provide such great resources to agencies and have such a great impact on them. So I'm just, like I said, honored. It's a pleasure to be here with you today.
Great. Well, thank you. And if you could, I'd love for the audience to hear a little bit about, kind of obviously what you do at AEBetancourt, what that means to them as agency leaders. I know it ties into stuff that we talk about all the time when it comes to people. So if you could just kind of share a little about what you do and why it matters, because it does.
Yeah. I mean, so our focus is really to accelerate organizations by helping them attract, select, hire great talent for their organization. And what I'm really passionate about is the impact that employment has on value for an individual, for our communities, but ultimately for organizations as well. And so I like to, as a company, we really, our focus is to create that impact on value through helping agencies find great talent. And there's a huge need for it out there. And so we're happy to be able to jump in and help out with it.
Yeah, I just thinking now, the last 3 to 4 months, whether it been events that we've hosted or I've been part of or attended, and you go around and talk to people in the room and agency leaders, and what's your biggest challenge? People. Finding talent. So yeah, I've got the right guy. And I know you're going to share some stuff here. And, we talk all the time, Art, on the podcast, and I do, about the number one job of an agency leader is to develop your people.
Yes.
And guess what? It starts by having people to develop.
Absolutely.
And the right people. So, I obviously, I've got a few questions that I would like to ask you. And I told you before we started, it's very much like a cup of coffee or having a cold beverage. And, I may follow up with some more questions because I'm always interested. I'm just curious in what you do and the impact you've had and what you've seen. So I don't want to start on a negative tone, but I guess I will, because I mentioned the things that I hear as challenges of talent. But what do you see out there in talking to agencies in particular of what their biggest challenge or challenges are? And how are they dealing with some of those things?
I mean, the overlying challenges are there's not enough talent. And I would say there's not enough experienced talent, really. And then secondarily, we don't have the time or resources to develop our own talent. So even if there's great people out there, we have a need right now. And so I don't have 6 months, 12 months, 2-3 years to train up a producer and build a book so that they can then be on my succession plan for my producer that's getting ready to retire, or my account manager that suddenly quit. I would love the luxury of hiring somebody and training them for 2 years to take it over, but I need somebody right now. And so, those are the two greatest challenges out there. And then there's a lot of things that are underlying that, whether that's compensation. We can't find people because of comp. We can't find people because of geography, because of work from home. And there's lots of other underlying things within that.
Yeah, I think you said that really, really well. And the second part really hits me. It's a big part of what we do is we try to help agencies develop talent. But you're right. It's one of those, well, can we do it tomorrow? Like how fast is it going to happen? And that's not the way that works. I talk about, kind of being a talent gap. And there's obviously so many things out there that we hear, in the economy outside of the insurance market for sure. So this is kind of just an offset question, and I'm not trying to be funny or flippant, but like, is there truly just not enough people, enough talent, people that want? I mean, what's the real cause in the gap? Because people ask me all the time, and I don't know that I have a clear answer. What's your perspective on that?
Well, I would certainly say there's not enough experienced talent.
Yeah.
And even non-experienced talent, it's out there, but you have to work hard to get it. Mm-hmm. And you have a couple things going against you. One, that in any industry, good talent isn't just falling into people's laps. Right. And then in our industry, in the insurance industry, there's a misperception of what this career really is. And people should be beating the doors to get into this industry, beating the doors down. But there's a misperception on what the opportunity is, and they're not. So not only do you have to convince somebody to leave where they're at, you have to convince them why this is the greatest industry they've never heard of. And so it's real work to get it done.
Yeah, I don't know if it's a good analogy or not, but I use it all the time. So let's just keep going with it. But I mean, I'm a big college sports fan, and I look at like programs. It's like it's recruiting, right? And it's such a big part of, hey, you want to win games. The best coaches, the best coaches find the best talent. But as you're saying, it's two parts of this. Number one is, do they even want to play that sport, right? Be in the industry. And number two, if they do want to play that sport or they're good in the sport, how do I get my message to stand out above all these other people that want that talent too? And it's so scarce, and finite. And, it's one of those things that it's interesting because I'll always find a few agencies that go, actually, we're doing great. And this is the buzzword that's hard to define. It's like, what is it? They got good culture. Well, how do you establish that, right? That takes time. So I want to kind of, put this into a positive light, so to speak, and kind of get solution minded with you a little bit. With the talent, you said lack of talent and experienced talent, I guess, is what you said mostly there, and then not enough of it.
Yeah.
Does that provide some opportunities? And if so, what is it? And I know part of it's a big part of what you guys do to help agencies with some of this to help bridge that. But, in the talent world, like what opportunities do agencies have? What are things agencies could and should be doing?
Well, I mean, first of all, you talked about developing talent. And, that's if you need it now, it's too late. And so the number one job, I think, of leadership in business, and great CEOs saw this: Jack Welch, Steve Jobs, Elon Musk, right? If you read their biographies or you read what they did, their number one initiative is they went out and found the talent. Yep. And not only did they find the talent, they created they created processes and institutions within their organizations to find talent and to develop talent as well. And so first and foremost, I think you have to look out. The opportunity is to look out 2 or 3 years down the road and say, what does the future look like for us from our needs? What does the future look like for where we need to grow? What does the future look like for the people that we think are going to retire? And let's add 10% for attrition that we're not expecting. And then say, how do we develop that talent now? And so that's one thing. The second opportunity with experienced talent is, because there is such a talent gap and there's so much movement, there is experienced talent that are ready to go to that next level. And as people begin to move out, you're able to bring them, give them opportunity to move to the next level, or opportunity that they may or may not have had before, to grow into a position. And so that's one benefit of that talent gap, with people aging out, not enough people getting in. There's more opportunity for those people that are in it. And then the question is, how do we show those people that opportunity at our agency? And then there's all kinds of great talent out there that might not be a great fit for where they're at, but might be a good fit for you. And for a lot of reasons. It could be because of geography. It could be because, one producer is really good at going after $20,000 accounts, but the agency's sweet spot is $5,000 accounts, or vice versa. They're really good at going after $5,000 accounts, but some agencies their sweet spot is $20,000 accounts. Yep. So it's really about defining what is right for you, what success looks like for the role, what you want that person to accomplish. We call it performance-based hiring metrics. And then aligning what you're looking for with those metrics, and then finding those people that are right to give that opportunity to. But it takes work, and it takes, I call it a total talent pipeline. And it's passive and active candidates, active and passive search. And, there's room for job postings. That's passive search for active candidates. There's room to hire recruiters, which is what we do. That's active search for active candidates and even passive candidates. There's referral programs that you can do if you know an organization. It can't be just one solution. It needs to be multiple solutions that's really guided from the top of the organization down.
Yeah, that's well said, Art. And I taking notes there. A couple of things. It goes back to my college sports thing again, but it's interesting too, because we work a lot with sales teams as well, and with agencies, and there's such similarities of, I'm working with a producer, talking to a producer about, are you always prospecting? It's like, for an agency leader, are you always recruiting? And I think you said it really, really well. And it's interesting, and this isn't to slight any agency out there. It happens, but it's like, we know someone's going to be retiring for 2 or 3 years. We see it coming, and then we're suddenly surprised. Oh, what are we going to do here? And again, sometimes there are surprises. I get that. It's like,
absolutely.
It's like when I get surprised that Christmas happens every year. It's Christmas again. They always have it December 25th. Like, oh, I guess we do got to go shopping. And then, of course, the development of talent. And then I thought it was really interesting, and as you said that, is finding the fit. Just because it doesn't fit somewhere else doesn't mean it may not fit, in your place, or vice versa. And
yeah,
my college, my college analogy there is, I think it is really what some great coaches do at run programs in college sports. Is maybe they can't compete against some of the biggest names out there, but they develop talent well. People see that and they go, I don't know if you're a fit here, but I can see how this is going to fit here. Part of our culture and what we're doing. You agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. And, an actual college sports analogy comes to mind. I'm a big Notre Dame fan, and Notre Dame has one of the top fencing programs in the country. And I think that the woman that won gold in fencing at the Olympics this year was actually the only college student, university student that won a medal or won a gold medal in the Olympics. And if you think of a sport that potentially there's probably not a lot of people beating down the door to get into, it's misunderstood. It's probably fencing. Yeah. And Notre Dame, the coaching staff there, they could sit around and go, man, this is hard. There's just not enough talent. We're all competing for the same talent. The way they've built their program is they go to the gym at Notre Dame and they look for the people that have the talent that they're looking for and the personality that they're looking for. And then they go convince them why they should be in fencing, and they build their team and train them. And they have consistently, men's and women's, the #1 fencing program in the country for college. So I think that's right on. And I love that analogy too, by the way, the college sports.
Yeah, it's just, it's easy for me because I like it. I always feel like I use it, but I've never heard in that sense of fencing, because that takes it a step further as far as, you find stuff and it's like, again, I don't know fencing, but it's funny, like that's part of the advantage, I think, of people are like, listen, I know you don't know fencing, but I watched you do this or play this, and you could be great. You're like,
Yeah.
does it teach me, and all of a sudden you find the right fits because you're seeing things differently. And when I wrote down there, already just said that is, I mean, the best agencies around this, they're creative thinkers. Outside of, I always say there's two types of thinking. There's the problem thinking. We always have a problem, and there's solution thinking. Yeah, there's always problems, but what are our solutions? How do we get around this? What would be something we could do that's different, that's unique, that other agencies aren't doing, that we could grasp on and own? And I love that. And I mean, one more on that. I mean, I talked to an agency a couple of weeks ago. This probably won't surprise you. And it's like, when you begin to always think about people on your team, you see more people who would fit on your team. And you're at a restaurant and you've got a server who there's something about it. It's like, and they call you by your first name and they come back and they go, are you looking for you tell me you got a really good job. I don't know how this is a career. What if we can get you into an amazing career, right? And be able to coach and train around that. So I don't know if you see that sometimes in your world.
Yeah. Well, think of it this way. If you're a business owner, an agency owner, you're sitting there. How many cold calls do you get every day?
Yeah.
How many people knock on your door trying to do business to business sales to you? And sometimes it's as simple as a conversation is going, hey, tell me something. You're a great salesperson. Do you start from scratch every year? Yeah. My goals change. I everything that I did the year before, it goes away, and I got to hustle. And then the follow-up question is, could you imagine in 10 years from now, if whatever you sold today, you'd still be getting residual commissions off in 10 years? What do you think that would do to your career and your income and your family? And there's so many examples like that of why being a producer in the insurance industry is great. I could name off 10 of them, right? And so there is talent all around us. We just got to be looking for it.
Yeah, that's a great point. It is. I'll just tell you real quick. I started right away at 22 years old as a commercial lines producer, and I struggled for it. It's a tough deal out there. But it's funny. I remember even early on in my career, talking to people in networking events. Person that's real estate, whatever, and I'm like, it's like every time you sell a house, like you just have to go sell another one, right?
Yeah.
Like,
could you imagine if you got a commission check every time somebody paid a mortgage?
That's what I mean. I was like, wait a second, that's it? Like, yeah, you just got to go out and find more. And I'm like, outside of the fact that, a lot of insurance is required, let alone. So anyway, it's interesting. I would like, if you could, Art, I wanted to give you time because you mentioned a little bit about some of the things that you do, but, if you're an agency, and again, I've got agency leaders that listen to this and people in the insurance world, and they're looking to work with someone like you, I'd love to know kind of what your perspective is. What are some things that you do for agencies and agency leaders to help them in this talent situation?
Yeah, and maybe if it's okay, I'd like to share just a little bit of my story to kind of lead to that. And maybe I should open with this, but I started in this business about 15 or 16 years ago, and joined a well-known national consulting firm and helped build a third-party a recruiting platform that was really focused on helping agencies hire producers. And about 7 years ago, I just made some crazy life decisions and started AEBetancourt, went back to school, got my MBA at Notre Dame, had a fourth kid. And when I looked at what do I want to build, what do I love, again, it goes back to that impact. The very first person that I placed, an agency owner came to me and said, hey, I have a business problem. I want to perpetuate. I need partners. I need to hire great producers. And the very first person I ever hired for that agency, 5 years later, became a partner, and he's still there today. And the recruiting model in general, what people are typically think of as recruiting, is broke. It's a $150 billion industry, the client satisfaction rate of a cable company. And the reason is because the way the fees are structured, it creates incentives for recruiting firms or recruiters that don't align with the interests of the client or the candidate. And so I thought, man, there's got to be a better way to do this. And so that's where we developed what we call recruiting as a service. And when we engage with people, we're able to do it in ways that other firms can't or won't do. You know, one of our values is acting as a partner. And so in our process, we are transparent. And what that means is we actually share a candidate database with our clients. We also show the work that we're doing on a day-to-day basis. We are a dedicated resource so that if we're doing a search for an agency, we're not doing the same search for another agency in the same market. So you know that you're getting the best of us. The best candidates are representing you, and you get a percentage of our time. And so we find, through that, we get better, faster outcomes. It typically reduces the cost by about half of what you'd normally pay. And we just do it through basically a simple hourly rate. And we've had a ton of success. This year we were named an Inc. 5000 fastest growing company in the United States. We have 32 team members now. We were awarded several awards of excellence by Inc. 5000 and the local Chamber of Commerce here. Won best and brightest companies to work for regionally and nationally the last 4 years in a row. And we've had a lot of success because of that model. And so, we have agencies, really agency partners in pretty much all 50 states, and hire for any role within an agency. Lots of producers and account managers are the biggest needs right now. And we've even grown into other markets because a lot of our partners, agency partners, refer their clients to us because we've done such a great job for them. Yeah. So, and then another thing that we do that's unique is we really go through before we actually engage in our search, we go through what we call a perfect fit model. And I won't go into the details on that now because I don't want to take up too much time. But essentially, it's based on the concept that the number one reason why companies have a problem finding and hiring people is because a simple concept that it starts at the beginning. You can't find something if you don't know what you're looking for. And most people start and end with a job description. And a lot of people don't even get that far. But job descriptions are great internal legal documents, but not great documents for finding and hiring people. And so we develop our perfect fit process to assist us and agencies to make sure that we know where we're going to find them and that we know exactly what great talent looks like. So when we do see them, we can identify that.
Fantastic. And thanks for sharing the story. Because what I love about that is, that's the realness. That's why you do what you do. Right.
Yeah.
And, I always think, the best entrepreneurs started because there's a problem they want to solve. They see a problem in the world and they want to be part of the solution and fix it. And I love what you're doing there. And I'll tell you, we could talk more, but align a lot in how we interact with agencies and what we're looking for. And I love that that last part you said there. It's so true. It's like, it's really hard to find something if you don't know what you're looking for.
Exactly.
And I think that's a big part of just understanding that. So, all right, well, actually, before I get to my last question, what's the best way for people to connect with you or your team? Is it your website, somewhere else they could go?
Yep. Yeah. So you can, our website is AEBetancourt.com. And that's AEBetancourt. You could probably just type it into Google, and if you misspell it, it'll pop up. Yeah. You can also email me at arthur.betancourt@aebetancourt.com, or give me a call on my cell phone, 903-312-2589.
You're going to have thousands of people calling you.
Awesome. I love it.
All right. I don't know about that, but we'll make sure we get the links and stuff in the show notes.
All right.
So, all right. You ready for one last question?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go.
This is a personal question I asked to every guest. It's my favorite question because I think it provides a lot of great value to. I always learn something every time, so I'm selfish. But here's my question: if you were having a conversation with the younger version of you, and I don't care how far you want to go back, Art, but we could say 20 years ago or something. But you see the younger version of you just starting off, kind of in your adult life, so to speak, and they're looking up at you, or I guess probably the same height, looking at you, and they say, "Hey, older, more experienced, wiser, better looking Art. What's one piece of advice you'd give me?"
I'd probably say, go get it. I developed a kind of a core belief of whatever I'm doing, build it like I'm building it for myself. And I would say start doing that earlier, and believe in yourself and go build it for yourself if you need to. And go get it, man. Just believe in yourself and go get it.
I love it. Hey, simple but effective. And I will say, I don't want to comment on your one thing too much, but it is interesting how much for a lot of people, including myself, and many times the fear, the doubt, lack of confidence, whatever you want to call it, can hold us back from doing the things that we're destined to go do.
Absolutely.
And so it's awesome that you took that leap in what you're doing. So, well, Art, again, I respect your time. I appreciate you being on the podcast. I know the listeners are going to get great value from you being on it. So any final words before we depart?
Brent, thanks so much for having me on the podcast. I really appreciate it. And looking forward to, continuing our relationship and seeing the impact that you guys are having on so many agencies. And if we can help in any way, just keep us in mind. So really appreciate everything.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Art. And thanks for being a listener. If you're getting value from this podcast, please leave a rating and review. I'd much appreciate it. Again, if you want to learn more about how we partner with agencies to really be an agency growth partner, working with an entire agency, masterminding, the training, coaching, go to sitkins.com/experience, sitkins.com/experience. Thanks for listening. Take care. The Agent Leader Podcast is brought to you by the fine folks of the Rough Notes Company. They are publishers of the insurance industry's leading magazine and technical insurance content. Rough Notes magazine profiles successful agencies plus keen insights from respected experts on a host of must-know topics. Rough Notes Advantage Plus provides the tools to help your agency grow, providing authoritative information on complex coverage issues. Visit them and learn more at roughnotes.com.